Hey guys, welcome back to Astrovision, Spirituality, and Tarot. So in this video, we're going to be discussing Kesha's natal birth chart, and I'm going to be calling out some aspects within her natal chart and pointing at some placements that can point towards this behind the scenes energy that has resulted in her career being canceled. Now, don't get me wrong, Kesha does have a loyal fan base that has stuck with her through these years, and they've really been dedicated and devoted and providing her comfort and providing her empathy with her story and with her seeking out justice. And we're going to get to that further within this video. I just want to kick out this intro for you guys. So, Kesha's rise to fame was very hypnotic. If you were familiar with Kesha, then you know she was a very colorful person. She was very polarizing. Also, if you were aware with the way that she trailblazed the late 2000s, then you would know that Kesha did have somewhat of a good run. Although her relevancy in the mainstream did flatline after 2013 with her last biggest hit being Timber featuring the household Latin name artist Pitbull. After Kesha fell off the charts, her career remained dormant, and that could have potentially been due to some blackballing on other people's hands. And again, Kesha is a Pisces woman. She has a lot of Pisces energy. So there's going to be a lot of secrets, and the behind the scenes potentially is just going to play a big role with this woman, and she's going to be someone who lives their life in secret and is going to have a lot of mystery and a lot of speculation around them. So I'm not doubting anything that Kesha has put out here for public consumption. It's pretty obvious that she went through something traumatic while being under the hands of that man's impact and his influence. You can really tell with the Pisces when they have gone through something that has impacted them in such an intense and severe way, in such a traumatizing way. You can tell these people literally will shed that empathetic part of them, and they will somewhat become damaged. They'll become more fragile in a way, and they will somewhat look abused. They'll look even more delicate than they once were. So that's very apparent with Kesha. She tends to really distance herself from the spotlight in these current days. Whereas before, she was a pop star and she was on full display and she was everywhere at once. So traveling, touring, and doing all of that fun stuff. To now, she's at a point where she just wants to shelter herself and protect her energy and protect who she is. And also, I think she's taking a more deeper approach into spirituality that has been more personal for her. Kesha is a woman that really can just represent that Pisces energy. And now we're going to jump into her natal placements and we're going to discuss that. So Kesha was born in Los Angeles on March 1st in 1987. And her sun sign is a Pisces. And since Kesha is a Pisces sun, she's going to be prone to showing off her artistic abilities, and she's going to be the type to wear her heart on her sleeve. These are the type of people that can heal other people even while they're hurting themselves, and they have a tendency to turn their own pain into art and to turn their own sufferable and tragic and traumatic events that they have been in life. They can turn these into beautiful stories and into beautiful songs and beautiful artistic pieces and masterpieces. So these people are visionaries and they often have creative, idealistic approaches to things. And with this energy, she can easily be misunderstood by those who are more rational and lack an imaginative mind. Pisces are prone to displaying escapist traits such as oversleeping. They can easily rely on prescriptions and pills and use all of that stuff to function. So these are the type of people to fall victim to a bad habit involving party favors and paraphernalia and all of that stuff. So that's something that she has to watch for, especially with just being a Pisces sun. Now, Pisces in some other houses, really, they can get away with hiding this habit, but a lot of Pisces suns, especially if it's trining Mercury or it's trining the moon or it's trining some other placements, this energy really can just show off your drug habit and really you can come off as a junkie. So people who are Pisces, they just have to watch for that because that is one of the main possibilities of Pisces if you aren't careful. And since Pisces can be empathetic, they can go with the flow, and these people can easily be persuaded by others. You can just fall victim to being addicted to substances that helps them function. So that's just something that I always want to get out there when discussing Pisces. And also their opposite sign, Virgo, can be like this. And Gemini also can have some tendency to overindulge in that area as well. And another thing that Pisces suns, such as Kesha herself, can be known for showing off is their aloofness. These people have a tendency to be gullible and naive, and they can even be delusional. You know, they tend to live their life with the rose-colored glasses on, and so these people can get away with living in La La Land and having a fantasy world that they go to escape in. And again, something to be aware of with Pisces in general is that this sign represents suffering. This sign can represent catastrophes. It also can represent trauma, and it has to deal with spirituality as well, and a person's emotions towards other people and just being overly empathetic. You know, this is where you see someone dying over their pet, you know, taking a bullet for someone else. This is that energy, you know. You're very devoted to whoever it is that you love, and when you love them so deep and so empathetically that you are willing to potentially, you know, give up your life force. This is where you can see that energy. And Pisces can be this way for other people, and also other people can be this way for them. It can go both ways. With Kesha being a Pisces, this can point to her love for showing off animals and spirituality and also music. And another thing that Kesha could display is the fact that she's very secretive and she's a very deeply personal and private person. And now jumping into her moon sign, with her moon being in Pisces, squaring Neptune and Uranus, but also conjuncting her north node, which is in Aries, and her ascendant and also Jupiter. And I believe she has Jupiter in Pisces as well. So with Kesha being a Pisces moon woman, but also a Pisces sun woman, this is going to put an emphasis on Kesha being extremely artistic and empathetic and also secretive. So since her Pisces moon squares Neptune, this can play out to where she goes out of her way to create art that makes her feel comfortable, but there could be a challenge with her consistency in this area due to the laziness or the other secretive disruptive habits that she may possess, and that is due to her Pisces moon squaring Neptune. So she could be comfortable and just being lazy and being prone to lacking a to-do list or lacking a planned out schedule, so she really can go with the flow. And if the control is left in her hands, she could just, you know, have a tendency to fall asleep or fall victim to some disruptive habits. And these disruptive habits can be very secretive and very taboo, and they also could have some tendency to make her want to escape. So indulging in art, overindulging in music, overindulging in food or shopping. She could even have a tendency to overindulge in adult physical activities or overindulge in escapism, you know, just getting away and being distant, being closed off. And with her being a Pisces moon, she could make a lot of promises that are hard to keep, and her heart could be too heavy at times to where she literally has to escape again. You know, these are people who are naturally comfortable with their own company. They even can be comfortable with other entities, and this is where you can see someone in their house playing with tarot cards. You could probably see them practicing on a Ouija board. You know, these are the people who are going to pull out the crystal ball, and they're going to be very comfortable with spiritualism in the household. These are the people who aren't afraid of channeling spirits and communicating with them, or even being a host for spirits. And this can take place in Kesha's own household since she's a Pisces moon. She really could find an interest for exploring spirituality through metaphysical objects and even spell work, and even down to like astral projection and hosting seances and rituals and things like that. But since this does square Neptune and Uranus, if I was her, I would just be careful, because she could, you know, get stuck with some demonic energy being attached to her, especially since her moon is squaring Neptune. And with Neptune squaring her moon, it could be challenging for Kesha to get rid of any entities that she welcomes into her house, or any spirits that she welcomes into her house, because, the squares have to deal with challenges. And again, with Kesha being a Pisces moon, she could just struggle with being a victim and being tortured and traumatized within the household. So I don't want to elaborate on her childhood because I don't know. She hasn't put out any documentaries or any books to really dive deep within that or even talk about that. But just from discussing, the Pisces moon and what that represents, this can just deal with her being detached from her mother at times. Maybe her mom was an artistic woman or struggled with some mental disabilities herself, and that caused her to be very distant from her children, or just probably Kesha in particular. And this even can play out with someone who has a stage mom, especially if that moon is sitting in like the 5th house, or it's sitting in that 10th house and it's a Pisces moon. This can represent a mother who is going to devote her time and her energy into her child's artistic abilities, and making sure that her child is going to these callbacks and is going to all of these auditions. With Kesha having this Pisces moon, it really can point to her being a very artistic child. And, this also can represent, especially since it's squaring Neptune and Uranus, Kesha on, the secretive side, behind the scenes, she possibly could struggle with some PTSD or some borderline personality disorder problems, or even just a distortion of the mind, and her emotions could easily be triggered unintentionally by other people. So she could have manic episodes, which can bring a need for prescriptions, and this can bring a need for Kesha to be regulated by a professional, by someone who can check on her mental health and her emotional health, because she could actually struggle from time to time with deep depression that is life threatening. Pisces have a tendency to be the type to, just sacrifice themselves and just say, game over. So having a therapist, especially as a Pisces moon, a therapist that can see you on that soul level, will be important for someone like Kesha, especially because she just has this energy squaring Neptune and Uranus. She can be seen as a black sheep, as the odd one out most times. So Kesha could really benefit from psychiatric help, or a therapist, or even a loved one or a friend who can see her at a point to where they can see her for who she truly is, without the glitz and the glamour, without the bells and the whistles, the hair and the makeup, without the status and the name and the fame and all of that stuff. She needs people who can see her as a human being, and as someone who is very emotional and very sensitive, and who has actually been through something. So just with her having this Pisces moon, this is something that's going to protect her. She could be a very fragile person and a very delicate person, especially after all of the alleged things that she's gone through. And if someone like Kesha were to potentially go through the alleged things that she has claimed, then those things could potentially destroy her. And I'm not even talking about a way to where she won't survive from it or anything like that. I'm not talking about it in that way. I'm just talking about it to where it can transform her into having a villain mindset. It can really distort her mind if she was to go through these things over and over again. And I know Pisces can go through things like this to where they have to be saved, but some Pisces can crack and they can become a villain, and they really can portray the traits of their torturers and their abusers, and they can portray these characteristics and really mirror what their abusers was producing onto them. The water signs have that quality about them, and it's something that they do to survive. And 9 times out of 10, if you're constantly mirroring bad qualities within someone else just to survive, you can eventually transform yourself, and that can become your new normal. So I do believe that with a lot of Pisces, they just have to be careful. People with strong Neptune energy, strong Pisces energy, you just have to be careful with surrounding yourself around narcissistic people. And people with that Pisces energy just have to be careful with being around people who don't have the best intentions set out for them. A lot of Pisces can have a lot of secret enemies and a lot of secret haters and a lot of people who are out to get them and they just don't know. But the good side of this energy is that they can have a lot of spiritual protection. So since Pisces are gullible, they're very empathetic and they're not always watching their blind side. Spirit can be their other set of eyes, and spirit can be on the opposing side, making sure that Pisces is okay. So when someone thinks that they're going to mess with the Pisces, and I say this a lot of the times in my videos, when someone thinks they're going to mess with someone who has a strong Neptunian energy or strong Piscean energy, it's going to bounce back on that person. And this goes for a Pisces themselves as well. If a Pisces is out here doing some crazy stuff, this is why you see Pisces on the streets, people with that heavy Neptune energy. This is why you see them homeless and on the streets, strung out on drugs, different things like that. It's 9 times out of 10 because they probably weren't good in their lifetime to other people. They probably were very, very toxic and very, traumatizing to other people and produced a lot of pain onto others. And so spirit is like, the ancestors of those other people was like, nah, you thought, now I'm about to handle you. And so this can also play out with Pisces, where if people are doing this to them behind their back, their ancestors will get the people that are doing this to them. So tenfold does exist. The rules regarding whatever you do to another person can come back to you 10 times is very true. So just keep that in mind when you are out here doing something in secret and it's traumatic, it's destructive, and you are the only person who has the potential to change that outcome, but you still go out of your way to do something secretively catastrophic or destructive in a way, and it's very traumatic towards other people, then yeah, you're going to be handled, period, point blank. Like, it's just going to come when you least expect it, because that's how Neptune and that Pisces energy works. And also another thing to note with Kesha being a Pisces moon is the fact that I do believe, allegedly, that her mother was a hippie at a point of time in her life, and that could be represented by a Pisces moon as well, especially with Pisces squaring Uranus and squaring Neptune. That can just deal with someone practicing spirituality, but it's something that's more unconventional. It's something that's not of the norm, especially with it squaring Uranus. And allegedly, her mom enjoyed, traveling at unexpected times because Kesha was born in Los Angeles, but I do believe she has other siblings, and they weren't born in Los Angeles, and they were born in Tennessee, I do believe. So her mother can represent that Pisces moon squaring that Neptune and Uranus energy to where, she traveled a lot at unexpected times. And with this squaring Uranus, that can just deal with her mom being unpredictable and being unconventional, and also studying unconventional spiritualistic studies as well. Now, Kesha does have Mercury in Pisces, conjuncting her Sun, sextiling Mars and Neptune, and also trining Pluto. And with this and these aspects, just in general with her having a Pisces moon, she'll be great at keeping secrets. So Kesha will be a great secret keeper, especially with that trine to Pluto. Since Mercury is in Pisces, Kesha can be the type to sing in a very eclectic way that is artificially beautiful to others. And also with Mercury in Pisces, she could be often shunned or shamed and even blamed when she speaks up for herself. So people who have Mercury in Pisces that is negatively aspected, but I would say Kesha's is positively aspected in some way. It is trining Pluto. So since it's trining Pluto, this is where you can see Kesha being shunned, shamed, and blamed when she speaks out for herself during situations that were traumatic for her, or situations that she was a part of to where, she potentially is the victim in that case.
Well, Kesha is speaking out right now. She is revealing that she had a crazy psychedelic spiritual experience while she was sober. And she said this, by the way, on a podcast with host Zane Lowe. Now, it's interesting to me that Kesha is still allowed to be in the public sphere. If there's one woman that deserves to be canceled, who was at the forefront of all things Me Too, it was Kesha wanting to get out of her contract at Sony Music, making up rape allegations against Dr. Luke, destroying his family, and eventually losing in court and dropping her case after it was proven that she lied by suggesting that also Katy Perry was raped via text messages with Lady Gaga. She got caught. Katy Perry went on the stand. If you don't know this backstory, it's an incredible story of a woman who we realize is a liar and probably was just somebody who clearly was doing a lot of drugs, was drinking a lot. It's in all of her music, and decided to sleep with a few producers. I could believe that Kesha has slept with a few people in the music industry. She's not particularly talented, and yet she's able to produce albums. And as we know in Hollywood, you can always trade sex for success. But when she regretted doing that, she wanted to go back on all of her decisions. She decided to falsely accuse a man. So I am fully on the side of Dr. Luke in this predicament. Don't think he's an upstanding citizen. Don't exactly think he's a moral character. But it is wrong to accuse a man of rape simply because you regret sleeping with him.
She could be shunned and shamed during these times. And most times during Kesha, trying to be outspoken about this or just trying to get it off her chest, she could be told to get over it. She could be told to quit living in the past because she's a Pisces. So that's just engraved within their reputation. These are people who, again, they live within their artistic world that they create for themselves. They live within that fantasy world. So she could be told to get over a lot of her trauma. And since Kesha has Mercury in Pisces, she's going to be the type that cannot help reliving her past. You know what I'm saying? Her trauma is probably something that she's tormented by. She probably has dreams and nightmares about the things that she's been through. And with Kesha having her Mercury in Pisces, it's just going to be difficult for her. Even if it's well aspected, she has a lot of Piscean energy, especially her Jupiter is in Pisces. So she just has a lot of this energy. So it's going to be a challenge for her. And especially with her Mercury being connected to this energy as well, she could be seen as a liar. People could have a hard time believing her. And that's due to Pisces really having that the boy who cried wolf aspect attached to them. These people are so good at creating stories and things like that, but they do have a tendency of over exaggerating and not really painting a clear picture. These people can really distort the truth in some aspects just to make things sound beautiful and paint this beautiful picture. So you kind of have to be careful with people who do have Mercury in Pisces, because that is a negative side of this energy, is that these people can just outright be liars. They can be pathological liars, and they can just make things up and go with the flow. This is a mutable sign, so these people can go with the flow and just pull things right out of their ass. So you do have to be careful with people who do have Mercury and Pisces. But again, with this energy, these are the type of people who are going to be focused on either being the victim themselves and telling their story. They're really going to play that role, and it's going to be a part of their legacy and a part of who they are. Or they're going to be focused in seeking out victims, and focusing in on their stories and their painful, traumatic events that they have went through. And someone with this energy, they'll be able to understand what that person has been through, but they'll also be able to narrate it, illustrate it, and tell it to the world. Pisces and Neptune also has to deal with photography and film and movies. Pisces can represent Hollywood and that industry. So this energy does have to deal with that. And these people are able to tell those painful stories and put it on paper or put it on film. And someone with this energy, like Kesha herself, again, in most occasions, their words and their thoughts will be taken out of context. And either their thoughts will be exaggerated or they will be suppressed. So due to Pisces being an opposite sign of Virgo, and Virgo is all about the context, it's all about being punctual and being literal, you can see Pisces lacking those qualities and lacking in that area. So a lot of people who have Mercury and Pisces, they can struggle with being taken serious and being taken literally. And this can cause them to distance themselves, this can cause them to be deeply introverted to where they just escape because no one is taking them serious. You know what I'm saying? No one is really caring about their emotions and about what they're saying. And to dial it back and bring up the situation involving Dr. Luke, with Kesha having a Mercury in Pisces, you'll see situations where the victim is being tormented by their abuser. You know what I'm saying? Especially since Dr. Luke held control over Kesha, and he was more so responsible with producing and managing Kesha's career, the direction of her artistic abilities. This is seen with someone taking advantage of that and abusing their power, with Kesha having Mercury in Pisces, but her Mercury in Pisces placement is also trining Pluto. So the people involved with her, the people that she just so happens to collaborate with, involving music and involving intellectual property that has to deal with her thoughts and journalism and things like that, these people can be obsessive and possessive over those items, because Scorpio and Pluto has to deal with the ownership of other people's things. And so with Kesha having her Mercury trying this Pluto aspect, this very much so can play out to where Dr. Luke is in the position to blackball Kesha, and he is in the position to really destroy her career and make sure that her career and her artistic abilities are really kept a secret, and he could be very destructive in this area and damage a lot of the things that she has in progress for herself. And allegedly, Dr. Luke was accused of going fishing in Kesha's pond without her permission. That's just how I'm going to word it. I don't want to be too literal in this video just because I'm on a platform where there are certain rules and regulations. And I also just don't want to open up a can of worms for anyone who comes across this video, a fan, what have you. I just feel like if you want to know more about that situation, it's very public and you can find out full details from studying the trials, studying documentations that have been put out. So I don't want to fully embark down what initially had took place involving Dr. Luke and Kesha, but allegedly, this took place in 2005 according to Kesha, and since her first few testimonies, in recent times and even back then, she has been incoherent about her story. And so, due to her not even being able to recall certain things that had taken place during, the allegations placed upon Dr. Luke, that potentially gave Dr. Luke some leverage in areas where he could find some loopholes with his lawyers. So just with her being incoherent about her story, this is mostly and mainly one of the reasons why Dr. Luke had got off and is free to go and torture someone else. You know what I'm saying? And I don't, for a shadow of a doubt, want to fall short on my doubts because I very much so do believe Kesha, she has a lot of Pisces energy, and Pisces people can naturally be abused, and, they can naturally have this victimization storyline that is very true to them. So I'm not going to discredit anything that she has put out here at all, you know what I'm saying? And this man does have an extensive reputation for being perverted. He has a controversial reputation in the areas of overindulging in adult physical joy involving people who may or may not have wanted it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just going to leave it at that. And again, with Kesha being a Mercury and Pisces woman, and this trines her sun, it kind of is not helpful in areas where rationality is used. You know what I'm saying? So in the legal system, that's where you're going to need a lot of rationality. You're going to need to be sharp, pungent, and very proper, very literal. Everything needs to be within its context. But again, people with Mercury and Pisces, they have an issue with those qualities, and they have issues strengthening those qualities, whereas their opposite sign, Virgo and Gemini, can naturally challenge them in this area. So again, with this placement, this is one of those challenging placements to where Kesha is going to be naturally forgetful. People that have Mercury and Pisces, that is a trait that can stick with them throughout life is that they can be naturally forgetful. And this is why they have spirit on their side. You know what I'm saying? Spirit tends to be that second set of eyes for a Piscean person, especially for someone who has their Mercury in Pisces. You know, this is going to be very helpful on that spiritualistic side for them, because spirit is going to protect them and be kind of like their guide and also their shield when they have their back turned and, you know, their enemies are out to get them. And so hopefully, you know, Mr. Luke or whatever does not have any children of his own. You know what I'm saying? I rebuke that he goes and tries to get any woman who bears kids of her own. I just entirely ban that idea from becoming a possibility with this man. Because if all of these allegations just so happen to be spot on correct about this man, then just out of the sincerity of his kids' future, you know, or any woman that he just so happens to get with, just out of her future being fucked by that man, just I rebuke that energy for real. You know, there's a lot of darkness that clearly follows him, and even people that get involved with this man, it just seems like their public persona or their career, their artistic abilities turn toward a darker direction. You know what I'm saying? Doja Cat is affiliated with this man. And if you look at my natal reading on Doja Cat, you can see that she's going down this sinister route. You know what I'm saying? She's going down this darker path, whereas she was more so light, bubbly, and airy and very quirky at first and at the start of her career. And Doja Cat has allegedly always been entangled within Dr. Luke's web. So I don't know how deep and how extensive that is, and we're not going to speak on that. But also there's just been other celebrities like Ariana Grande, Lady Gaga, who has allegedly came out and spoke out about this man. But since he has so much power in his position, these mega superstars recant their statements, or they, you know, a lot of superstars have that heavy Neptunian energy, so their words can be taken out of context and their true initial statements can be distorted in a way. So just alone with Kesha having Mercury and Pisces, this is something that is going to be very challenging for her, because she already has a ton of Piscean energy. You know, we haven't even got to her Jupiter and Pisces placement. But I know Jupiter and Pisces can be very detailed, so I'm just going to lightly go over that. Basically, Jupiter and Pisces can represent someone having to learn appreciation for the position that they're in. So you'll see this in the charts of a lot of famous people, a lot of public figures, a lot of people who are famous for something artistic and something creative. You'll see them having to learn some appreciation for the position that they're in. They may struggle with narcissism in some way, because Jupiter can produce a ton of narcissistic qualities, because it kind of is that energy to where someone is putting on a crown and pretending like they're of royalty. And when you merge Jupiter and Pisces together, this can overly inflate someone's ego or overly inflate their philosophical ideas and their philosophical approaches to life. So with Kesha having Jupiter and Pisces, you know, this does point to her celebrity, and this also can point to her imprisonment within her situation and her career being dormant and blacklisted, being a publicized story. And so she's like this world recognized victim in a way, for lack of better words. And I'm not saying that with any type of malice attached to it. It's just simply calling it out for what it is. And also you'll see with the people who have Jupiter and Pisces, or their Jupiter is making some aspects to Pisces, you'll see that they'll have, or they'll touch people in a way, and a lot of their fans or a lot of their supporters or the people that they touch, these people will live vicariously through that Jupiter and Pisces person. This is why you see this aspect in a lot of celebrities' charts, or maybe even a therapist, maybe even someone who is just recognized on a global level, a prince or a princess, someone of royalty, can just deal with someone who is recognized for their empathetic qualities or their abilities towards religion and philosophical approaches, even cultural stances, even the judicial system. You know, Pisces and Jupiter, when you mix that together, it's very deep. You know, these signs are towards the end of the astrological wheel, and when you get towards the end of the astrological wheel, that's when things get very, very deep. Explaining things and just peeling the onion layers, it can take a longer time. So that's just me breezing by her Jupiter and Pisces placement. And before we fully exit out of Mercury and Pisces for Kesha, I just want you guys to be aware of the fact that people with this energy like Kesha could potentially connect with spirits. You know, these people are great listeners, even to a point of clairvoyancy and having a clairvoyant type of spiritualistic gift. So these people can literally hear voices and sounds from the spirit world, and they'll be able to communicate with these other entities and these other spirits. And these people are also able to hear colors and hear frequencies. And people with this placement, they're just able to communicate outside of the human body, whereas other placements wouldn't be able to do that naturally, or wouldn't be able to do that so easily as someone who has their Mercury in Pisces. Or maybe your Neptune is making some strong aspects to the third house or to another house where you can communicate with these otherworldly entities. So just along with Kesha having Mercury in Pisces, I don't doubt that she is a very spiritualistic girl. She probably does practice witchcraft and does indulge in spell work. And she probably uses that stuff as a form of protection, especially given with what she's been through. She could be a person who turns towards spirituality and turns towards a higher figure that is bigger than her, that she looks towards to give her direction and give her strength and give her protection and guidance. So just along with her having Mercury in Pisces, you know, it has its disadvantages, but its advantages, when worked through properly and worked on in a beneficial way, in a clear way that is very of the light and it's of a higher vibration, these people are capable of changing the world. Little by little, these people can spread the positive messages of their spiritualistic practices or of their philosophies, and they really can change the world. You know, give or take, however you look at it, Mercury and Pisces can be good. Some people aren't going to understand this energy, and that's okay. But to those who get it, they get it. And just someone like Kesha who have Mercury and Pisces, they're going to be loved by the people that they communicate to on a everyday basis. Another placement that I found interesting while going over Kesha's natal birth chart would have to be her Mars in Taurus, sextiling her Pisces Sun and her Pisces Mercury. And this placement also trines her Neptune as well. So with this energy trining her Pisces and Neptunian placements, this can specifically point to Kesha's music career being the main drive and motivation for her finances. So being able to perform is probably how she eats and how she provides for herself. And Taurus does deal with finances, and it does deal with food in your comfort zone as well. So something obvious to note with Kesha having Mars in Taurus is the fact that she will be able to make large and luxurious amounts of money very fast, because Mars tends to speed up the process of whatever house or sign that it's merged with. So having Mars in Taurus, for the people that have this placement, it can grant you a possibility to make a lot of large, luxurious amounts of money very quick. But the downside of that is that you could also spend the money just as fast as you're making it. So if you do have Mars in Taurus like Kesha, you would just have to learn to be disciplined and learn to be more patient in this area regarding your finances and your comfort zone. So people with this placement definitely can come off heavier at times, and that is due to them overeating, you know what I'm saying, and them having to always eat something that is going to instantly provide them some comfort. These people can have an impulse to get hungry out of nowhere. You know, it just comes out of nowhere. They're hungry. They can even get an attitude, because that Taurus energy will be amplified by the energy of Mars. So these people will be pissed off if they don't get the food that they want when they want it. With Kesha having Mars in Taurus, it's going to be no shadow of a doubt that she's going to collect some pounds and portray a heavier image at times. And Mars does govern over Aries. And that zodiac sign in particular does represent your image. It represents that first encounter, that first impression when someone comes face to face with you. So with Kesha having Mars in Taurus, she will be able to overindulge in the food and even spend her money too quickly. You know what I'm saying? This is where you can see someone having a shopping addiction. This can really put an emphasis on her overdoing it and even getting some botched work. You know what I'm saying? Since Taurus does have to deal with the values and it does deal with your self-worth and things like that, but Mars deals with your appearance and this energy is trining Neptune. She could have some hidden self-esteem issues that causes her to go under the knife and causes her to transform her outer appearance into a more artificially beautiful one, you know, and Pisces and Neptune can represent something being artificially beautiful. So just alone with her having this energy trine her Neptune placement, it's going to be very difficult, especially involving her finances too. It's going to be very difficult because, yeah, she's a celebrity and she's a musician and she will be able to make luxurious amounts of money through touring and through selling her music and merchandise and all of those things. And the money may come quick, but again, it can disappear just as fast. And since it's trining Neptune and it's sextiling her Pisces Sun and her Pisces Mercury, Kesha can deal with her money being mismanaged or her money disappearing or being stolen or even lost. You know what I'm saying? So Kesha could be the type to open bank accounts and put money in there and then she forgets the password and just forgets about the bank account in general. You know, Pisces can be very forgetful and this energy is trining her Pisces and Mercury. So she could just be forgetful about where she puts money sometimes. She may move and then forget that she had $100,000 stashed under a mattress in her guest bedroom. You know, this is that type of energy where you're constantly gaining money and profits, but you're also losing money and profits. And so that balance is very challenged. It's very hard to find some type of balance within this area. And Mars is the opposite energy of Venus. Mars governs Aries, and so it's the opposite energy of Libra, and Libra is all about the balances. You know what I'm saying? So with Kesha having Mars in Taurus, trining her Neptune, but also sextiling her Pisces Sun and Pisces and Mercury, this is for sure just going to be a very difficult aspect to deal with and a very uncomfortable one, and this can even produce a lot of headaches. You know what I'm saying? This can produce a lot of mental frustrations in this area for her. You know, that Neptune influence can deal with Kesha being a prisoner to her own finances, and she could be surrounded by a lot of glamorous and desirable things of quality, but you know, at the same time, the downside of that is that she doesn't own any of the things that she's showing off or that she's accustomed to. And the same things that she's surrounded by, all of this luxury, all of this glitz and the glamour, it could be used to keep her quiet with that trine to Neptune, because Neptune also has to deal with things being hidden. And she also has this energy sextiling her sun. With Kesha having Mars in Taurus, trining those placements, she definitely could be paid some hush money, or she could be paid in secret financial favors in exchange for her silence. You know what I'm saying? So her abusers, Mars can represent her abusers and torturers and things like that. And Neptune can also represent that as well. But Neptune represents things being hidden and things being in secret. Since she has Mars in Taurus, trining Neptune, but also sextiling her sun and sextiling Mercury in Pisces as well, this is where you're going to see Kesha settling out of court with Dr. Luke. You know what I'm saying? And that is seen with her, I think recently over this summer, she received that verdict in court. And that was the outcome of the situation, is that she received some settlement. And I'm not going to doubt that she hasn't been receiving different offers from certain parties that may be affiliated with Dr. Luke. So the label that he's under, you know what I'm saying, they may have reached out. People of higher power and higher authority may have reached out and made sure that she was okay, made sure she was eating and just paying her bills and providing some type of financial stability for her. And all of this could have been done in secret while she was going through this trial and going through all of these things. This aspect can for sure point to her accepting hush money and accepting financial favors under the table in regards to the situation at stake with Dr. Luke. And, just along with her settling out of court, that is seen right here. And it's very unfortunate. She has a lot of Pisces energy, so she's going to get this man back. It's going to come when he least expects it, and she's going to have the upper hand in that situation. But in the meantime, in the between time, until that happens, I guess the settlement is a little form of justice, but it really isn't. You know what I'm saying? This man is back out on society's streets and social media's streets, and he is being this violator. You know what I'm saying? This violator, and he for sure should be held accountable. You know what I'm saying? And he's at a point where his reputation definitely is stained, for sure. But who in Hollywood doesn't have a stained or tainted reputation that you could really look at them sideways? You know what I'm saying? A lot of them do. A lot of them have questionable pasts and questionable futures as well, due to their affiliations and who they're tied to. Some people, just along with their connections, they can still get away with some fuck shit. And they can still get away with being a disastrous human being or a disastrous something, because some of these people here are just possessed. I don't even think that human side of some of the people in Hollywood exists anymore. I'm for sure that some of the people in Hollywood have been distorted and has been checked out, and something else has been taken over for a lot of the people that you see in the public. And this is very unfortunate with Kesha and other people who have been in situations like this. You know what I'm saying? A settlement is okay, but at the end of the day, no amount of money is going to bandage your pain. No amount of money is going to get the stain out. You know what I'm saying? That stain is just going to deteriorate away and eat at you. So the money can provide some comfort. It can provide someone like Kesha the ability to escape in a more desirable way that is safe for her. But at the end of the day, I would have liked for her justice to be reprimanded in a way to where she could honestly speak her truth. Because, this man allegedly keeps going with the narrative that he did not do what Kesha is alleging and claiming that he did. And I just feel like a hit dog will holler, and a hit dog will continue to holler. So let the dogs holler, let the dogs get hit, let the dogs die out. You know what I'm saying? That's just how I feel about this situation overall. But again, with Kesha having Mars in Taurus, this can even play out to where she has an expensive taste for items of quality or vintage items and antique pieces. And this also can play out to where she just burns through her money and really abuses her wallet by trying to portray or represent her art, representing the things that she finds artistic and the things that she places value in. She could really just abuse her finances doing that. So overspending her budget on music videos, overspending in the area of costume changes and costume jewelry or makeup and hair, or even destination and flight and travel. She could just overspend during these times. And with this aspect, Mars and Taurus, Kesha can also be prone to being a sugar mama or a cougar cat or whatever you want to call it. And she could just be prone to spending money on a man. You know what I'm saying? Trying to keep a man, trying to buy his love. So she could find herself in those shoes, or she could be on the opposite end of this to where she's the sugar baby and she's the one that's getting spent on and getting treated generously in exchange for her companionship and in exchange for her love and her time. So with this aspect, people who do have Mars and Taurus, if it's trining Cancer or it's trining Pisces or even Libra, or you know what I'm saying, you definitely will have that potential to go and do some damage in somebody's pockets, rack up their credit card bill. And people with Mars and Taurus kind of can have it easy when it comes to just making money. They can be money magnets, and money can come out of nowhere. Their finances, especially with Kesha having this trine Neptune and also sextile Pisces, she could be seen as one of those people who has money, but no one knows where it's coming from. They're just like, girl, where did this money come from? You haven't been doing shows in years. You haven't been on tour in years. You haven't put out a single in years. Where is this money coming from? How are you still in this nice gated community or this big house? How are you still in this condo or whatever? And people that have Mars and Taurus, trining Neptune, or even Scorpio, you could just have someone else secretly taking care of your financial affairs on the back end. So they can have sugar daddies, they can have secret admirers who just want to make sure that they're straight and make sure that they're taken care of. And this can even play out with people who are trust fund kids and their whole lifestyle is really funded through their grandparents' money or their family's money or even through their parents' pockets. So with Mars and Taurus, this definitely is something that's going to help her in the everyday life because she does have a lot of Pisces energy, just a ton of it. So she could struggle with everyday life, Virgoistic type things. You know what I'm saying? Just having a to-do list, getting up and brushing your teeth, combing your hair. You know, Kesha does represent that Piscean look. She always looks oily and greasy, and her hair always looks wet or gelled like a fish, like she's just fresh out of water, like she's a mermaid or something. She just really does portray a lot of this Neptunian energy and this Piscean energy, and it's very apparent while going over her chart and just looking at some of her aspects. She does have Saturn in Sagittarius conjuncting Uranus parallel to Neptune. So this can deal with Kesha's father being unpredictable and being inconsistent. Even her father could have been restricted in some way when it came to raising her and watching her grow into a woman. He could have been restricted. Her father possibly could have been an extreme distance from her. And due to that Uranus conjunction amplifying this energy, it can really cause that to be extreme. So yeah, he could have been an extreme distance from her or just been somewhat of an extreme idea, you know. There could have been some wonder and some thought about who her dad potentially is to her, you know. Someone with this aspect, they very much so will have some thoughts and wonder about who their father is, especially because this is Saturn and Sagittarius conjunct to Uranus. So this is an aspect where you could see someone being adopted in a way or a part of the foster program, or maybe their parent passed due to an unexpected circumstance and they just so happened had to move and had to go and stay with extended family, and so now they're learning about their father's extended family that they never met or something like that. And Saturn can represent the father. So with Kesha having Saturn and Sagittarius conjuncting Uranus, this can point to Kesha, even her own mother did not know who Kesha's father was. You know what I'm saying? So since Kesha's mother was allegedly like a hippie back in the day and practiced that form of spirituality, she could have just as well been a swinger and liked to assemble into different unconventional parties and social groups like that. So, you know, people that swing, they get around, and if you're not using protection and you've been with several bodies that night, you may not know who the father of your child is going to be. You know what I'm saying? And 9 times out of 10, everybody in that room isn't going to want to take a DNA test. So with Kesha having Saturn in Sagittarius conjuncting Uranus, this very much so can point to her having some confusion in this area dealing with who her father is. And again, it's parallel to Neptune. I forgot to bring that up. That also is something that can produce her father being invisible, not being present. His true identity could be distorted in some way. You know what I'm saying? So to close this video out, we're going to discuss the last and final placement that I have found some purpose in discussing, which is going to be Kesha's North Node. And she does have an Aries North Node conjuncting her Pisces Moon and squaring Neptune, which is going to be very important. Since this energy does square her Neptune and it does conjunct her Pisces Moon, she will find herself being led in directions where she is able to be at peace in her own authority outside of partnerships and collaborations with others. But, you know, again, Kesha might struggle with finding balance in her emotions and separating herself from collaborations and partnerships. So since the South Node It's energy that we already embody, and it's energy that we're already comfortable with. She could find it hard detaching herself from collaborations and being affiliated in groups and in partnerships with other people. And it could be difficult really detaching herself from that. And so her North Node purpose is going to be seeking out authority and seeking out positions where she's able to lead and she's able to be a boss in some way. And since it's conjuncting her Pisces moon, this will provide a lot of peace and a lot of comfort for her when she does go towards the areas that she's supposed to. But when she tends to operate in this South Node energy, you know what I'm saying? Like making generic pop songs like she used to and having a eccentric, careless image that potentially could have been built by Dr. Luke, you know what I'm saying? Since Kesha is a Pisces and we don't know where her houses are placed because I don't have her birth time, but just with her being this Pisces, it doesn't seem like she's someone who wants to be displayed and wants to be on Front Street or even come off as this shooken can of soda that's just ready to pop. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that is something that she initially wanted to debut as, but I do feel like it worked and it was something that was given to her by a creative team that she used to work with. She probably went through artistic development and that was the image and that was the persona that they developed for her. And in some way, especially just now, recently, with how she appears, you definitely can see that she's very reserved and she's very empathetic and she's spiritualistically to herself. You know, she has a personal approach to that. It's not something that she tends to share with the world. So just alone with Kesha having a Libra South Node and it squares Neptune, that very much so could have dealt with her artistic abilities and her artistic direction being controlled through partnerships and being controlled through a group. And so she probably did not really have any type of illustration or narration for how she wanted to project her image. And that is seen with that Mars and Taurus squaring Neptune as well. And it also is sextiling her sun, and that also has to deal with the image as well. So her art very much so could have been controlled and her true identity could have been suppressed in a way, and how she truly wants to embody her artistic qualities could have been restricted by other people that she once was affiliated with and connected to. So with her breaking away from that Libra South Node and putting herself in those positions to where she is the authoritative figure and she is calling the shots, that for sure is going to be very beneficial for Kesha. And again, it's going to provide her a lot of peace. And it's actually going to really just open up this can of artistic creativity. I don't even know if that's a word, but it's just going to open up this can of creativeness where Kesha is going to really just embark on this new flavor palette of skills that she probably never knew she even had. And Pisces can also represent that. It can represent your hidden talents as well, talents that you never knew that you had. So with Kesha becoming an independent artist, you know, stepping away from Dr. Luke, I am expected to see some very introspective artistic things from her. I'm expected to see her do some crazy and wild Neptunian things with her art and with her music. If you're a fan of her, definitely look forward to that. I feel like she's one of those artists who is a staple artist. She's one of those artists who didn't have a big impact as far as making a huge commercial impact to the record labels and bringing in a lot of sales. But as far as pop culture and having a lot of pop cultural impact, that still solidifies Kesha to be this superstar. You know, even though in distant years and in late years she hasn't been at the focal point, she still made a debut that was very strong and very impactful, to where she's one of those celebs who can still shine without being seen. You know what I'm saying? She still has some mysticism attached to her. There's still some mystery there to amplify her star qualities, you know what I'm saying, and make people question and make people wonder and speculate about her. So I definitely do believe that Kesha will be able to sustain her music career and sustain her audience and even expand upon that once she is able to incorporate some relatability into her artistry. You know what I'm saying? Incorporate who she truly is at that self-value level when you first get to meet her. I think if she's able to reintroduce herself to the public and reintroduce her ideas, her thoughts, and her philosophical approach and artistic approach to things, then people will find some type of likability within that. Well, guys, it looks like we've approached the end of this video in regards to Kesha's natal birth chart. And if you have any video requests, definitely comment down below. I have been appreciating you guys' feedback in regards to certain videos and also just in general in regards to my channel. I do appreciate it. And shout out to those who have been subscribing, and to any new subscribers, feel welcome to subscribe as well. I know on my channel I haven't been as personal, which is intentional. You know, I do want my videos to be more so educational, more so entertainment field, and so separating myself, detaching myself from that is going to give you guys some content that I feel like is going to be very insightful and is going to be more so helpful. So, you know, eventually I will get to a point to where I can tell you guys some stories about me and be more personal. And once I reach a milestone, a certain milestone that I have for myself, I will debut my face, and I will debut a get to know me video and other things like that, and I will be in a more comfortable space to open up and share with you guys. But since then, I have been appreciating the support, and just I want to give a shout out again to you guys for the 50 subscribers. I know that accomplishment is small to some, but it's big to me, and it's something that I want to be attentive about and recognize and be appreciative of. So thank you to those out there, and stay tuned for some more videos. And again, if you're a new subscriber watching this, definitely stay tuned for more content to come. Bye.